Welcome back. Well, the race for New York governor getting tighter. A new poll shows incumbent Kathy Hochul up 13 points ahead of Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman. And that's down from 20 points higher just 1 month ago. New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik was joining me yesterday on this program. She told me why she decided to drop out of the race. Plus, she also addressed the problems that New York is facing right now. Watch.
I made the best decision professionally, but also personally. I have a 4-year-old son, and I also am maintaining as one of the deciding votes in a very slim House majority. So it was the right decision at the time, Maria. But I will tell you, this brain drain from New York, there is no end in sight. We lost more population in the state of New York, and it's not because of the weather. It's because of the tax and spend failed policies. Here you have a socialist mayor of New York City celebrating his first 100 days, where they continue to talk about raising taxes higher and higher, making this city more and more unaffordable. And Kathy Hochul, who is a do-nothing governor, the worst governor in America, who is frankly hijacked by the socialists who hold her hostage. And it's very sad for the people of New York. Every single day, Maria, I hear from New Yorkers who are moving to Florida, to Tennessee, to Texas. So Republicans need to get smart in New York and not play footsie with these radical Democrats.
And joining me right now is New York gubernatorial candidate and Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman. Bruce, great to have you. Welcome back.
Thank you, Maria. It's an honor.
Well, I want to get your take on your campaign. I'm not seeing a lot of you. Where have you been, Bruce? It looks like Kathy Hochul is going to beat you. What are you going to do about it?
Just the opposite. An internal poll that we did 2 weeks ago has us in single digits. We are now 6 months ahead of where Lee Zeldin was 4 years ago, and we're raising money. We are a high-profile campaign. We had a press conference yesterday that was attended by all members of the media. I've been traveling throughout the state. We are in a better position now than we were 4 years ago, and we're going to win this race because when you compare my record of having the safest county in America, not raising taxes in 4 years, cutting a $150 million tax increase in my predecessor, having the lowest poverty rate in the state, even though our demographics are a mirror image of the state. Compare my record of 4 years as an executive of a county larger than 8 states with 110,000 more Democrats against Kathy Hochul, the most overtaxed, overregulated state in the United States. Our electric bills are 50% higher than the national average. People are miserable in New York State, and they want a governor that will make them happy, and I will make New Yorkers happy by putting them first. I will cancel our sanctuary state policy. I will not spend $8 billion on people who've been in New York for 15 minutes when that money should be used for hard-working New Yorkers, not people who just came here illegally and just arrived in New York State. So we're on a roll. We've got a tremendous amount of momentum. We're in single digits right now. We will win this race. I will be the governor on January 1st, 2027.
Well, let me tell you, you're talking to the choir here. You got New Yorkers on set right now, and that's why we're all fired up, Bruce, okay? You got one, Kenny Polcari, who used to live in New York, but you hightailed out of here and went to Florida. I live in New York, but we want to know specifically how you're going to get New Yorkers out to actually vote for you, Bruce. Make the case. You just talked a lot about the issues of New York, and we understand. But will you be able to get those people out to come vote for you?
Yeah, people are fed up, Maria. They really are. Just look at all the people that have left New York State. And most of those people are high net worth individuals. But for middle class families, they don't have those choices. They're stuck here in New York. And that's why they want a new governor, a governor that puts them first, cares about them, will cut their utility bills in half, will lower their taxes, will create job prosperity and make for safer neighborhoods. That's my record in 4 years in a county larger than 8 states. I have the experience, I have the ability, and I've got the policies that people want.
Kenny, jump in here.
Bruce, listen, I love this, and I would love to see you move into the mansion. I think, because I don't see enough of you, right? So I need to start seeing you more on social media, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram. You have to really pound yourself. You know, you got to get your message out there using social media.
Can you do it?
Yeah, well, we have Yeah, of course, we have a tremendous social media presence right now. We're on Instagram, TikTok. We're on Facebook.
Okay.
We send out text messages every day, emails. We have actually bought television. So we're doing all the things. You know, you don't cut a lead in half by doing nothing.
Right.
So we are on a big roll. We have the momentum. And as I said, we're 6 months ahead of where Lee Zeldin was, and he lost a very close race to Kathy Hochul. We're not going to lose. We're going to win.
Well, look, New York is bigger than just New York City, so let's just establish that right now. And I know you've got a big support system underway in Long Island and a lot of other places outside of New York. So talk to us about that. What are the issues that they're telling you are important to them? Because when you just look at New York City, Mayor Zohran Mamdani just celebrated his first 100 days Sunday, and he was with Vermont Senator and Brooklyn native Bernie Sanders, okay? So we know who Zohran Mamdani is. Watch this. Just take a look at this.
I have thought often of the Margaret Thatcher quote. The problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money. If anything, my friends, it seems that you eventually need a socialist to clean up the mess. On January 1st, I told New Yorkers that City Hall would hold a singular purpose: to make this city belong to more of its people than it did the day before.
Wow. He thinks a socialist is going to clean up the mess. Is this guy living under a rock or what? Mamdani announcing the first government-owned grocery store will open next year in East Harlem, Bruce. It's located close to several other independent stores, and it'll cost $30 million in taxpayer money. He built it from the ground up. So when you compare what's going on in New York City, Bruce, to some of the other areas outside New York where you have a strong foothold, what are you seeing?
Well, first of all, there are many cities in New York, just not New York City, that are depressed. We've had a brain drain. We've had a capital drain. We've had a people drain, people leaving this state. So whether it's Binghamton or Rochester or Syracuse or Buffalo, we've had people moving out because of the misery they have living in New York. But let me say this about Zohran Mamdani. He ran on a platform of affordability. What did he say? He was going to give everybody a free bus ride. Well, instead of giving a free bus ride, he and Kathy Hochul increased the bus fares. He's proposed raising taxes on middle-class property owners by 9.5%. He wants to impose a death tax on people who have a net worth of over $750,000, which is the whole middle class. Right. This guy's not going to make it more affordable. And with respect to the grocery stores, he said it'll take him 4 years to open 5 grocery stores. Well, the private sector could do that in 4 months. Wegmans, King Cullen, ShopRite, Red Apple, those are all private grocery stores that can open in 4 months. He's going to take 4 years to open 5 grocery stores. As Winston Churchill said, socialism is nothing more than shared misery. People are miserable enough in New York State. They don't need Kathy Hochul and Zohran Mamdani to make them more miserable.
All right, so tell us what you're going to do in terms of the state of New York. And do you think that Kathy Hochul, she's saying, oh, I'm not in on this property tax increase. I don't want to raise taxes. First, she told everybody to leave town if you don't like Mamdani. Then she said, oh, our budget has been deteriorated. You got to come back from Palm Beach. So what do you think is going to happen here in terms of Kathy Hochul? Should she win? Is she going to change everything and just agree with Mamdani after November?
Well, Kathy Hochul's done more U-turns than any cab driver I've ever met. So let's talk about her U-turn on congestion pricing. Before the election, she said she was pausing congestion pricing. The day after the election, we got congestion pricing, which is nothing more than another tax on the middle class just for the privilege to ride on a public road that the taxpayers already paid for. And congestion pricing is going to come to a community near you, whether it's Queens Boulevard or Flatbush Avenue or any other major thoroughfare, because they need to raise money. They have no concept about curbing a budget. New York State's budget is twice the budget of Florida, and we have less of a population.
Right.
How can you possibly rationally explain that?
Yeah.
It's out of control. I will put a curb on it. We will cut taxes. We will stop the crazy regulations that drive business away. And I will cut your electric bills in half by getting rid of the green energy scam, which is nothing more than a vehicle for people to contribute to Kathy Hochul's campaign and get billions of dollars on projects that produce very little energy.
Yeah, and of course, they've also wanted in the past to fund the police. You are a supporter of the NYPD and our wonderful law enforcement agencies across the state.
Well, Kathy Hochul is the most pro-criminal governor in the whole United States of America. That's saying a lot. And the bottom line is that I will pardon Sergeant Duran when I become governor on January 1st, 2027. He was just doing his duty. The morale is terrible in all our police departments throughout the state because of Kathy Hochul and Zohran Mamdani.
All right, Bruce, we're going to be looking for you more as we approach the November election. We want to see more of Bruce Blakeman out there fighting for New York State. We will be watching, sir. Thank you. Bruce Blakeman joining us.
Thank you.
Nassau County Executive. We'll be right back.